The only two things you got to do is answer your phone, no news, good news or bad news, and always do what you say you're going to do.
I use social media primarily to try and help acquire new relationships.
So many men and women have helped me along this journey.
Authenticity is becoming more and more important.
You can't control if they like you, but you can control your likability.
Do what you say you're going to do. You're building trust, and it is your word.
All that matters is consistency and the message that you portray and being authentic about it.
But I do try to make sure the content is spot on.
Hey, what's up, Glazers? Welcome to episode 9 of Glass GPT with my co-host, and we have Cindy Sim today with Q Railing, and she is building her personal brand and also whatever you want to call it, branding in general, on LinkedIn. We're all three of us are big into LinkedIn. That's my personal favorite platform. I know Keith is big on LinkedIn, and so here we go. So Cindy, in a nutshell, why don't you tell the folks who you are and what do you do?
Well, thank you. First, thank you, Brandon. Thank you, Keith, for having me on this podcast. It's an absolute pleasure. Just to start a little bit about my personal and my professional background, I've been in the glass and glazing industry just about 13 years now, and I have been incredibly fortunate. I have been so fortunate because so many men and women have helped me along this journey, which really allows me to be here today. Because starting out really within the glass fabrication world, really working with glass fabricators for 10 years, having an opportunity to meet so many people, and then now with Q Railing, working with the fabricator side, the glazer side. It's really different. And it took me a solid year really to get understanding about the glazer, understanding what the glazer does, and to the extent of, whether it's full facades or, just the railing package. So it's been an interesting, time here learning all about the glazer. So again, over 13 years in glass and glazing, now on the side working with the contract glazers, stair builders, metal fabricators, and it's absolutely fantastic.
Very nice.
I got so many things I want to ask you, but first,
real
ahead,
quickly, where did you start? So before Q Railing.
So I started with a company called Diamond Fusion International, and they produce a protective coating for glass, and we also sold machines. And I absolutely loved selling the machines. The machines were what really got me out of bed every morning, working with the fabricator, selling the machines. And I absolutely loved it. That was really where I developed the relationships with the glass fabricators. And that's where I got involved with the National Glass Association. And that really is where I was able to gain traction, not only with my personal branding, but as a woman influencer in the industry. But it was those fabricators that I sold the machines to that really helped me along in my career. And interestingly enough, I knew of Q Railing. I had talked to them before, and it was just like a kind of a natural progression over to learn more, to get challenged now with the contract glazer side.
Excellent. All right, go ahead, Keith. Maybe we'll just alternate.
the 13 years that you've been doing this, Sydney, who would you say, me personally, I've had several mentors along my journey up into this point. Is there one or two that really stick out to you that had really opened your eyes to what this industry is all about, or gave you some piece of information that helped elevate you to the next level that maybe we could give a little shout out to? And what was it that they opened your eyes to that really helped you along?
Well, that's a great question, because I would not be here without, I would say it was a handful of wonderful men and women that gave me my shot. And I would say when I was really learning about the fabricator side, I had the opportunity to meet with Ron Crowell. He was at Fenatech. Ron was instrumental in allowing me to have an opportunity to speak on the stage the first time at GPAD. Then it was Bill Sullivan at Brent who supported me from day one. He reached out to me, kept saying what I was doing in the industry, what I was doing on LinkedIn was making a difference. Then Ruby Singh at Glass Fab. He has always been an amazing supporter. And again, building these relationships step by step. And you will always hear me talk about building the foundation of trust. And with these men, now I never really even did business with Ron, but he was a supporter from the side and we presented at GPAD. Then did business with Ruby and his team at GlassFab. Never really did business with Bill Sullivan, but he always supported me on every LinkedIn post and any question I had. Then Paul Mahady at Hartung. He was an absolute huge supporter. And these men continually support me day in and day out. And oftentimes it's little tidbits I put on LinkedIn. Bob Cummings from Hartung reached out to me over the weekend, just congratulating me on my LinkedIn, comments. And when you have people like that in the industry that are leaders, that is incredibly helpful. Also, I don't want to forget about Robert Mastrappa from Glassworks. And the reason I picked these specific men is because each one actually had a significant turning point where I was able to go after their business for years. We know what it's like to be in business development. And I went after some companies' business for years and I never give up. I'm incredibly persistent. I persevere. I have been turned down time and time again, and I keep going. And some of the men that I mentioned, they said, okay, Cindy, we're going to give you your shot. We're going to give you your shot because I believe in you and I believe in what you sell. And I cannot stress enough that I've had those opportunities across the country with fabricators at all levels. And I've transitioned that mode of thinking, that perseverance, into the contract glazer side. And if you know me, you know I don't give up. I pick out my target companies that I want to go after. They are written on a whiteboard. I don't give up until I land them. And that can take years. But with the help of those specific gentlemen, and my last shout out would be to Nicole Harris, although she's no longer on the at the NGA, she's the one that gave me the confidence talking about the NGA board of directors. She's the one that supported me. And these particular people that I'm giving a shout out to have literally, I want to say, held my hand until I was ready to go to the next level. And they continue to support me. And I'm finding a lot of those same people now on the contract laser side. But this is going to be years in the making again. I'm going to BEC. Talk about another 3 to 5 years in the making. These relationships take time. And you have to do what you say you're going to do. And when you do what you say you're going to do, you're building trust, and it is your word. So those are the shout outs. Thank you, Keith, for asking. And that's a little bit about my backstory.
Excellent. So you mentioned about building trust and consistency, and those are the backbones of sales, right? I remember my mentor, Mr. David Huey of Denver Glass Interiors. He's no longer with us, but when I first came into sales, he said, the only two things you got to do is answer your phone, no news, good news, or bad news, and always do what you say you're going to do. And that's literally it. That's the whole job. And then with the consistency of years on top of that, I can relate to that as I go after customers here in my town. And sometimes it does take years, but I want to kind of shift gears and go into personal branding on LinkedIn in the business to business space. Now, you'd mentioned that we all have our personal brands and we all kind of have our niche carved out in the content space, but I kind of feel like you're on a whole other level in a direction of, I don't know, like being a part of the NGA and all these official things. Like I'm not really a part of anything official other than this podcast that we just thought up out of thin air and hanging out with Keith. So I feel like you're doing something that I haven't done myself yet. And so I just want to ask you, when did you realize that that personal brand matters in business to business sales?
Well, I can tell you that I have been on LinkedIn since 2007 when it literally had just launched prior to that. And I was not in the glass and glazing industry. And I saw the opportunities it would give me with reaching out to the right people. But I can tell you that it was right before COVID, okay, that I thought, gosh, this is really a great medium. This is a great platform to be able to use your creativity and to be able to keep your company top of mind. And the team here at Q Railing will hear me say this almost daily. It is our job to keep Q Railing top of mind. That is our job in every aspect. Therefore, when I am promoting, whether it's myself or Q Railing, it is part of my job to keep the company top of mind. So how could I do that and be professional at the same time and talk about the glass and glazing industry? And so I started out small, and I think this is really important for anybody out there that wants to start a personal brand. It is all about consistency. I cannot stress that enough. It is about consistency. And when you post with an intent to either educate or to promote, not necessarily yourself, but your company. So promote your company in a positive way and give the reader or the viewer something that will be insightful or will educate them. Or in all honesty, I think the best thing that works on LinkedIn are smiling faces. And so you will see a lot of times myself with customers posting. There's nothing better than a happy smile on LinkedIn to get people to notice you. Okay. So as I started going into the field with my prior company prior to COVID. And I started taking pictures with customers. And I found out that customers actually really liked it. Who doesn't want to see their name in lights? So I would travel seeing glass fabricators, and I would travel all over the country. And I would obviously feel out the room. You have to always read the room. Are these the type of people that want their picture on LinkedIn or not? You have to read the room, because I've made some mistakes, but you have to read the room. You have to know, can I ask for a picture, or would you? Nah, maybe not. Well, turns out that well over 80% are great with taking their picture. And oftentimes they want to showcase, oh, Cindy, come out here to the fabrication. Let's take it in front of this, or let's take it in front of one of our trucks with our name on it, or let's take it in front of the logo. I've had some people say, hang on, let me put our logo up on our flat screen so we can get a much better angle. So you will start to see people want to put their name in lights, and they may not know how to get there. So having a supplier or a partner put it up there for them and tag them means a lot to them. And so I started that prior to COVID, and it wasn't necessarily personal branding, but I started putting pictures of customers on LinkedIn, and I started to see people liking it. And I think we all have seen the rise in LinkedIn for the glass and glazing industry. I would say without a doubt, they were slow to progress into social media. But I think that with the younger generation coming up in the glass and glazing industry, you're starting to see more and more people get involved with marketing and get involved with social media. And so I would say when I started with truly putting customers was probably 2015. 2016, 2017, 2018. I was doing a lot of customer visits, posting a lot of pictures. But it wasn't necessarily my personal brand just yet. Then, right when COVID hit, and I wanted to start to keep up to date with the industry, and I couldn't shake hands with our customers, I couldn't have a face to face. I decided to start doing videos. And the most important thing, as I said before, is consistency. So I started doing videos. I started taking a lot of pictures of myself. I started grabbing quotes from our customers. I started putting people's name in lights. And also at the same time, in all honesty and to be transparent, I was going through a personal journey myself. So when you go through a personal journey yourself, you have content. And for those of you that may not know, I have a website called cindysim.com. It is geared toward helping women in midlife finding their purpose and taking care of themselves. So while I was going through that, I thought, gosh, I'm getting a lot of positive feedback from so many women on cindysim.com. Why not transfer that information to glass and glazing? And Keith and Brandon, you know what happened? Men came up to me at all the trade shows and said, oh my gosh, will you talk to my daughter? This is so great. I want it for our women in my office. I'm like, this is great for my wife. I had so many dads say, can you talk to my daughter? You know, she's in high school or she's in college and she's having a rough time. And so personal brand, you start to also bring in your personal self. And I follow a pretty strict 80-20 rule. 80% of my content is Q railing and 20% is personal. And I also believe you should find a niche. So what is your niche? So my niche happens to be women in glass or helping women in general. Then my other niche is positivity, because I know that I like to be positive and I know that that helps me every day. So why not put it out there? And for those of you that may not know, I have an autistic son. And so I really like to help the autism community. So I have found a couple different niches that make me proud to represent. And therefore, I've been able to grow my personal brand by literally putting a good amount of effort into it. It's not fly by the seat of your pants. It's really thinking it through. And I know you both do that. You have to put effort into this. And when you put effort into your personal brand, it shows. And I would say all three of us on this call have gone from posting right when we started to another step, to another step, to another step, to another step. And Brandon, when you say, well, now you're on the NGA board, I promise you, I believe I got there because of my personal brand. I promise you. And so, Keith, I would imagine your business has taken a huge incline because of your personal branding. Without a doubt, you know, and I would say that you've gotten more business because of your personal brand over time. And same for Brandon. I would say that you have to be consistent. You have to be genuine. You have to be genuine. And if you are genuine, business will come. So that's a long-winded answer, gentlemen.
That was amazing, very insightful. And I almost feel like intuitively I knew, based on all the content that I've consumed from you, that that's where it came from. But it was good how you broke it down. And I like that. Are you really hard fast on this 80-20, or is it like Brandon and I talk about, are you planning out your day when you're doing posts, or just when the next idea presents itself, you're like, oh, I got to do a piece of content about this?
No, that's a great question. I listen to a lot of podcasts. Okay. I read a lot of books. So whenever I have an idea, I put it in my cell phone. I put it as a note. So I have, during my podcasts, I'm like, I found one lately that said, "Oh, go after midlife opportunities." It's not a midlife crisis; it's a midlife opportunity. So I wrote midlife opportunity, and and so anytime I hear something that intrigues me, I write it down. And I usually spend like a Sunday morning or a Saturday morning putting out like content for the whole week, so I schedule it. Um, and I schedule it pretty much for 5 or 6, nah, maybe like 5 days in advance. And I try to, my schedule generally is Monday through Friday, Q railing content. And that could be Q railing video, Q railing social media. That could be pictures with customers. That could be a video about the industry. And then Saturdays and Sundays, I generally like to do some personal. I try to be respectful because I am representing a Q railing brand, while also balancing the Cindy Sim brand. So it's a fine balance, but I am constantly taking notes for future content all the time. I think that's really important. Whenever you see something that inspires you, write it down.
That's excellent. So that answers the age-old question, like, do you just fly by the seat of your pants, or do you batch? And I would say it's probably like 50-50, because I know that Jim and Keith and some other creators I know, they just whip that phone out and just make it happen. Sometimes the posts are planned in advance, but not usually. And that seems to work because of the authenticity factor. So I want to circle back to authenticity, because I feel like in the age of AI, authenticity is becoming more and more important. And that's where the personal and the personal brand becomes important for a business, because I feel like, people don't want to buy a logo or a big company. They want to know who they're buying from. And with the age of AI, like, anyone that you look at could literally be AI. But when you're recording yourself with just your phone and you have misspelled words and you're stutter over your words, like I probably just did now, I feel like that throws an authenticity vibe into the air. And because of this, I feel like anybody can blow up and have an excellent personal brand, because it's almost like the more unpolished it is, the more authentic it is. So yeah, I think you answered like a billion questions, like all in one sentence. Um, yeah, so I kind of got stuck again. So when it comes to like manufacturing, I know that you used to work in um,
DFI.
DFI. I know what DFI is because we used to have one at our old shop, and I got to imagine that the way that you sell to a manufacturing facility is different from the way that you sell to glazers. So what would you say the biggest difference is between manufacturing or people that just do installs?
Well, it's a completely different world. I mean, I was really entrenched in glass, and it was all about glass. And I lived my life in glass, and it was never about the installation. Okay. And so having 10 years with the glass fabricators, that's really, and generally a glass fabricator that could buy a machine, so that's a pretty long sales cycle. That's a relationship built over years, and I think you mentioned the one about DGI. I mean, that's a relationship built over years. So I think with the contract glazers, what I'm finding is that there's just like the fabricator, but there's different levels of a contract glazer. You have your mom and pop glazers, and I always call them the big boys. So those are going to be very different relationships. And I have a mindset of when I go for a big boy versus a medium sized contract glazer. They're very different in the way that you approach them. And so I think it's really important that I can take a lot of what I learned working with the big fabricators and then just put that over. It's the same human relationship development process, and no matter what, we're all people. And the proof is in the pudding. It's, did you say what you're going to do? Did you give us good customer service? Is it a good product? And, how is the installation? So it's very similar. It's two different target audiences, but when you develop a relationship, it is ultimately about having the integrity and the confidence to continue to do what you say you're going to do it and show up when you say you're going to do it. And there's a level of respect there. And like I said, I think you'll ultimately win the business, but it takes a lot of time and effort.
One of my questions, kind of dovetail this, is I use social media primarily to try and help acquire new relationships and new opportunities. So I feel like it condenses the sales cycle immensely
Mm-hmm.
prior to me getting on social media. But the one thing that I constantly talk about with our installers on our weekly meetings is, as good as the social media is to bring in new opportunities, it's only as good as what you guys do out in the field. Because if we're not doing out in the field what I'm preaching on social media, I go from a influencer to a snake oil salesman. And
Mm-hmm.
when I really kind of recognize the importance of that, I says, holy shit, I better make sure my house is in order and culture is a top priority.
Yes.
How often, or even when you went over to Q Railing, was that a thought, like, okay, I know this company, but I don't know everybody that works there. Now I'm going to go put myself out on social media to represent this company. How did you kind of diagnose that that was going to be a good fit for you? And were you ever concerned, and do you guys talk about it, often?
It's a very fair question, and it's a great question. I mean, you put so much energy into your personal brand. You want to make sure the company you're representing has the same level of integrity. That is
Or
absolutely very important. And also, what you're saying, Keith, as the business owner, hopefully your team is falling in line with that. And sometimes there is miscommunication. Sometimes, so I think it happens, whether we like it or not, meaning that same thing. Let's say I'm the face walking into these big contract lasers and I'm selling my heart and soul and I'm selling, we're going to do this, this, and this based on what I know. And then for some reason, it's not offered that way. For some reason with this particular customer, we talk about this a lot, not necessarily my personal brand, but are the sales team that's walking in the doors, because there's nothing more important than walking through the doors. Are we selling what our inside sales team is also selling? Okay. And that open communication is very important. It's funny. We just had a meeting about that recently, because outside salespeople want the sale. They're going out there, they're shaking hands, they're building relationships, they're there to get the sale. And we want to make sure that the team inside is marching to the beat of the same drum, okay? And 99% of the time they do it. But there's human errors, there's one, you just never know. But it is something that we talk about often. And it is something that I think about often because I've spent so long building my personal brand. And I also represent the NGA and the supplier chain. So I think about that as well. And I would say that's probably one of my most proud achievements, is that I can represent the supplier chain. So I want to make sure that my brand, personal brand, the company I work for, is all in alignment with my integrity. So it's constant, we are humans. We all make mistakes. We have to learn from them. As long as we can learn from our mistakes, if there's any, then I think we're all doing pretty darn well, but it is something, Keith, that I do think about often. And it's just constant communication with your team. Are you all representing the same marching orders?
good answer. I believe the same. Taking accountability. Our best customers have come from problems, but as long as we are willing to take accountability and handle them, I think that says a lot. Because I want to continue growing the platform. I have so much fun. Because everybody can get burnout in
Yeah.
any industry. But the social media Brandon and I talk about all the time, it's kind of like reinvigorated the way I approach this business, because it's a new element. And I also know 99% of the other people in the industry aren't doing it. So we get all the spotlight. Vanity can be a dangerous thing. I tell people all the time, don't get high on your own supply,
Yeah.
because as much success as you can get kind of crippled pretty quick as well. So you want to
That
stay
is
humble.
true. That is true. It's both good and bad. That's absolutely correct.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, I would say that the Q Railing brand is a very premium brand, and your
yeah.
personal brand is also a premium personal brand. And so I'm just glad to see that you guys are aligned. In fact, we first met at Glass Build. Was it 2 years ago or 3 years
Yeah.
ago, maybe? I was doing some video work for was it Charles? And I just remember that the Q railing booth has like always been top notch, and he takes so much care in the way that that's built, and he wanted to control every little detail. And in the end, it came out perfect. So I do think that's a good alignment. But there's some questions I got to ask, us content creators for content creators, because the vast majority of us, we just use our phones. Some of us, like myself, we get super obsessed about gear. So I got to ask you, what is your go-to gear for your content creation?
This is it. Just my cell phone. And it's funny because it kind of goes back to, even though I pre-plan everything, and when I take video with this phone, I will already have the content written out and edited and ready to go. But I just take a basic video. I don't want to be kind of bogged down with having different apps or having to edit it or having to make more changes to it, because I do think there is some authenticity in just me at an airport. One of my first videos at the airport that I ever did, I'm like, this is the best place ever, because I'm either going to my meetings or I'm done with my meetings. So I'm feeling great, and what better way, when you have, all this positive energy than to put it out into the world. So I take everything with my phone. Often I even just hold my phone. I do a lot of selfie videos, just because it's easier on me. And I know, Brandon, you were kind enough to show me a different app, and I tried it a couple times, and I just felt like, for me, bare bones basic has worked the best. But I do try to make sure the content is spot on and that the content is relevant, and that that there are no spelling mistakes. But listen, we're all human, so.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, so the authenticity shines through. So all
Yeah.
you content creators out there, or if you want to have a personal brand like any of us three, the gear literally doesn't matter. All that matters is consistency and the message that you portray and being authentic about it.
That's right. And I can say that the one thing I will, because the majority of our industry is male dominated, and I think there's some women that are really starting to come up in the industry, and I encourage them to get on social media. I encourage them to create a personal brand for themselves. Women can do very well in this industry, and just adding an additional layer of a personal brand will only benefit them, and I always say, when you pick a niche, it can be anything. I mean, gosh, if you are a technical person, utilize that. Put the information out there on the internet, because you will be thought of as a leader in the industry if you know your stuff, whatever that is. You know what I mean? So whether it's glass, whether it's glazing, whether it's machinery, whether it's specific information, be that expert that we all want to learn from. And so, but you have to be consistent in posting, being that one type of expert. You can do other things related to it, but you don't want to jump all over the board. You want to have, in one area, be that expert. I think there's just so much opportunity to create a personal brand, but you have to be willing to put time and effort into it.
Do you find that you get more success as far as building rapport / trust with potential opportunities through video or through photos and your script?
I would say it's a great question. I would say, honestly, videos, but I do a lot of still imagery, just because I think my message gets conveyed better. But people like to see, again, humans smiling. They like to see a video. But I do put a lot of still images, and then those do well. But the video, without a doubt, is probably the number one way to be on social media. The question is, are they really getting the the what you're trying to say. So if I'm doing a video, it's going to be, I try to do a relatively short, less than a minute video. And that's really important, not a long video. And I try to have different topics. But I think video is the way to go.
I couldn't agree more. We actually did a whole podcast on this, and although some, depending on what platform you post to, some platforms almost the algorithm almost I feel like rewards you more for photos and script and video, but a client I feel is I think the statistic was 6 times more likely to purchase from you if they like you. Now you can't control if they like you, but you can control your likability, and the only way to do that is through talking and oh, I saw what I like what Sydney says. What does she do? Oh, she works with. Oh, maybe I'll buy from there. So anybody that is willing to get out there, I put yourself out there in any way you feel comfortable.
That's right.
But the fastest way to gain the trust and potential likability is definitely through video. And I think it's so hard for people because of worrying about being judged or the fear of, it's almost like public speaking. All of a sudden you're putting a camera up and you're talking into it and other people are watching. I used to be extremely uncomfortable with that. Now, obviously, I don't give a shit, but that was a big thing for me back in the day. And I bet that's a big thing for most people. Do you feel comfortable if you are walking into Glass Build or wherever you might be and something just hits you in the face, go, oh my God, I have to do a post about this? Are you at a point where you have no problem popping up the phone and talking to it with 100 people around you?
Yeah, no problem now. But just like you, Keith, it was not easy at the beginning. I would probably take 25 videos for one topic at the beginning, And, it's a great lesson. This is like anything. You have to keep doing it, and then you get to the point where you don't care. And I will tell you, there's a 90% more positive than there is negative when you put yourself out there, and just last week I was in Atlanta and I walked into a contract laser and he's like, oh, there's Cindy Sim. I see you all the time on LinkedIn. It was great, and so that is why I do what I do. I do it to build the brand. I do it to build my personal brand, and then they come together and mesh. If I'm doing it right, that I'm here to, again, like we're all human, and we're all just doing pretty much the best we can with what we have. And so if I can meld my career with something I enjoy, it shows,
You do a good job.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you do excellent. So yeah, we've talked about that at length where the algorithms, and it's not just on LinkedIn, but it's especially on LinkedIn, they favor, still photos and copyright over videos. And I have clients that I help with their social media and, they're seeing the numbers like, dude, we need to post more pictures. Like, do we stop posting videos? Mm-hmm. My answer is always no. We must never stop posting videos because talking head is the best way to build trust. In fact, it's like my core message that I preach when I'm talking about my personal brand is like the nice photos and the cinematic edits aren't good enough. You need to tell a story behind what it is, or at least get your face in front of it and build trust with your ideal customer and sell them, well in advance. I think it was a quote that Keith told me that there's like this 7-Eleven 4 rule where a client has to have like 7 hours of touch point. I can't remember exactly how it goes, but basically all of that is being condensed before you even make the call. And if somebody recognizes you, that's even better. Like this last year and the year before, like, Glassbuild is the only place in the world where people are like, hey, Brandon, I know you. You're on LinkedIn. And then we all run into each other. We all make videos together. So I feel like we're onto something here. We're building the glazing industry through video content, all three of us. And I foresee that getting even stronger moving into 2026 and beyond. So I want to land the plane here in a little bit. And I just got a couple more questions, or one question. And where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Ooh, gosh, that's a great question. I know that's a long time, Brandon.
10 years.
I know, 10 years.
I hit everybody with that one.
Yeah,
that's 5 to 10.
I know.
Maybe 5, whatever.
Yeah, 5.
Let's say 5. I would say, in 5 years, I'm hoping just, still be in the glass and glazing industry. I've been, I said it before, I've said it a million times. This industry has been so good to me. The people have been incredibly supportive. Men and women from every sector have been incredibly supportive. So in 5 years, I hope to still be in this industry. And, I'm also, wanting to write a book. I also want to, do some additional public speaking. I speak locally for a lot of different women's groups, for families with autistic children. So I speak a lot locally, helping what I can here. And I'm hoping to take those topics to more of a national stage. But I think ultimately, it is the glass and glazing industry that gave me the level of confidence that I have today to continue to pursue my dreams. And it's because every single person has really shown their support at every step of the way for me, literally at every juncture, that has given me the confidence to continue to rise. And there's so many people, I'm grateful for.
That's awesome.
That's a
Yeah.
good answer. And just so you guys know, I have two mentors, and you're looking at them right now, Keith and
Oh,
Cindy. So when we first met, like Cindy gave me advice, almost like motherly advice. Like, damn, you're doing really good. Like, keep going. Like, don't stop. She would always tell me. And look, here we are today, filming a podcast. That's awesome. And then also, you met my wife, Jeanette. She works here. She works in the glazing industry, and I do have a daughter. So I really respect what you do for women in the industry.
thank you, Brandon. That was incredibly nice. And the reason I remember meeting you and I remember saying, don't give up. It's not easy to do it all. It's parenting. Let me tell you, it's not an easy journey. Keith, I know you have kids. Parenting is probably the hardest job ever. Then you have full-time jobs. Then you want to do personal branding. It's a lot to balance. But when you feel it in your heart, like I know us three feel the personal branding in our heart, it allows us to be better parents, to be better spouses, to be better employees or owners. So by allowing us to do what we love, it just kind of betters everybody.
That's right.
All right. Yeah, that was perfect. All right. Well, I think that's it. Unless you have anything else, we're going to land the plane there. You just experienced a full masterclass of sales and B2B content marketing on LinkedIn. I didn't even have to say a word. Like Cindy said it all. She said it all perfectly.
Thank you very much, Keith. Thank you, Brandon. It was an absolute pleasure.
Great job,
All right.
Cindy.
Thank you.
Peace.